Kia ora and welcome to the Creative Matters podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with New Zealand artists. I'm your host, Mandy Yarkich. These conversations are intimate, uplifting and insightful. The guests on the show have absolutely enriched my life, and I'm sure their stories will have the same effect on you. Thank you so much for joining me to listen to these amazing people speak about what drives them, the way they work, and their personal takes on life. Hi, and welcome to Season 4 of the Creative Matters podcast. It is so nice to be back, and thank you very much for joining me. This is episode 72, and we are speaking with emerging artist Rebecca Hazard. Rebecca is currently based in Tãmaki Makaurau Auckland, and she works primarily with oil paints. Rebecca's work currently references raw meat to investigate our tangibility within existence and her own social concerns.
Yes, like referencing quite specifically meat, which started in almost like nature morte, still life, objective sense. And then last year was specifically taking the meat because it's so loaded in itself. I was like, you have to get rid of all the other shit to understand it. You know, you can't. So it felt like I jumped the gun or something.
Rebecca's oil paintings are large-scale with a limited palette of vibrant colour. Although the works are fundamentally representational, there is also a distinct abstract, surrealist and sometimes geometric feel to her paintings. Rebecca talks about her decision not to attend an art school after leaving school, her expectation of and drive to becoming a practising artist from the age of 19, how reading, philosophy, researching, and writing influence her practice, the different ways viewers see and respond to her work, and what drives her to make the work she makes. Rebecca has got such a beautiful high energy, and I absolutely love speaking with her, and I think you're going to really enjoy this episode. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello, Mandy.
It's lovely to see you and meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, and welcome to Creative Matters.
Thank you.
So we've got you in the studio, which is nice, and it's a very exciting moment for me because I have not recorded since December.
Wow, yeah, that's been a good wee while.
Yeah, it has. So it's lovely to have you here and getting back into it.
Exciting.
And starting off Season 4, so that's good.
Brilliant.
So, Rebecca, I'm very excited to hear your story, and I think our audience will be as well. Cool. So I know you were born in England.
Yes, in London.
Yeah. So can you take us right back to then and tell us about your childhood?
Sure. Well, I moved here probably when I was 2 months old to Tãmaki Makaurau. So I've always been like pretty much bred and based in Auckland. So my relationship with England is pretty thin or sparse, although I am heading back there in a month and a half's time. But yes, I moved over here with I'm the oldest of 3 of my siblings, but they're all born and my parents were born here in Tãmaki as well. And yeah, I don't know, here's home.
Yeah.
So my relationship with England is thin.
Is tenuous.
Yes.
So what kind of child were you, and were you sort of discovering your creativity early?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I always loved to draw, and my mum was a very good drawer as well. And so I remember, I have memories of, drawing flowers or going on holiday and doing works with her. And my grandma as well really liked to draw and paint as well. Watercolors was a thing. So we used to watercolor together. But she was a bit older, so she the poor thing, she started losing her sight. And so she would try help me with these paintings, and she would be like, for this whole beautiful silhouette sunset thing, she'd be like, no, you've got to use browns. It was like a painting that was 50 shades of brown. So in weird ways, I learned all these kind of odd, tonal, qualities of color and things in a bizarre route of her just having lost a vision. But otherwise, I always enjoyed painting and drawing at school, but it wasn't something that I really was conscious of because I did a lot of competitive sports. I feel like I lived two lives, where the first half of my life was very much like competitive sport, like over 20 hours a week, doing gymnastics. So I feel like, yeah, my creativity, I didn't really give to it so much when I was younger. And it took until like high school to really have space, I think, for it, and have stopped that, that period of my life for then to be able to acknowledge it and explore it. But I knew I always loved it at school and took it and always, gave as much space as I could, I guess, to it. But, yeah.
And were you one of those kids who just loved the art department and loved
all the beautiful
class?
people who were teachers or in the department? Yes, like doing all the processes like lino cuts and printmaking. I was really fortunate to go to schools that had a lot of material access. So I remember intermediate being a really pivotal, I think, stage to exploring that, intermediate school, and then going into high school, where I went to Epsom Girls Grammar School, and the department is incredible there. They have a lot of teachers who some of them are practicing artists themselves or had been through like ELIM or AUT, and there's such a range of subjects. I was really able to play from like design, painting, sculpture, art history, Renaissance. So I was so lucky, and I took as many as the curriculum would allow me to. And I was always hanging out in the department for sure. Yeah.
So good that you had such a positive experience.
Yeah, I was very fortunate, very grateful for that.
And so what was your art like at that time, Rebecca? What were you focusing on, and what similarities or differences were there with the work that you're doing now?
Well, I guess at high school it's so different because you're restricted by curriculum and there's many controls as to what, to what degree play can really be fostered. But so I guess early part of high school, and that is very directioned and is classic fundamental drawing skills and I don't know, nature and mimetic kind of work. And then I guess the second part of high school, when you're kind of doing that NZQA, NCEA folio boards, so you're restricted to these 3 boards and exploring a certain thematic discussion. The work actually definitely has ties to what I'm exploring now. I think if I think back, which I'm trying to do my best to year 13, that was definitely looking at value systems and what and how we value. And I think it was also because I was looking at art history and doing a lot of reading of that at the time and just questioning the gallery space as well. So I remember my last board having I painted these hyper-realist gold frames and then painted my whole board red like it was the Auckland Art Gallery and left a lot of the frames just empty and then sent it off to be marked, which was my gosh. But I guess, just I've always a definite tie and interest in social value systems and other social structures. And then also in terms of subject within actually some of my other painting work, I was just really enjoying having a lot of fun. And then with some of my other painting work, I was just having, to be honest, a lot of fun. I was doing, I don't know, classic kind of still life. I feel like I have a big love for still life and the kind of relationships between objects and how they kind of reflect our social value systems as well. So I was doing works, but then I was kind of just destroying them. I remember spray painting over them and ripping them. And so I got a lot of humor out of that work. So in it, that's when I also kind of got a bit obsessed with food. And I remember painting just cabbages or things that I thought were really mundane and funny. And then one work had meat in it actually. And so I think that's the first time that I put meat in work, and I found that super interesting. But I guess that's when eventually I gave myself space after high school to explore that and as a subject what it was wanting to tell the viewer. But yes, but there very much is links to it. But
it's really interesting.
So kind of always a humor to it, a dark humor, even though I don't think people would sometimes realize that, but it's kind of just humorous play.
And what do you think in those days when you were a teenager?
Yeah.
What was it that was so sort of funny or intriguing about painting meat?
I don't know. It was just super naive. It was not even much of a reflection in terms of its inclusion in the work. I found it really interesting putting food in it because I think that's something that's so essential to everyone and like on the daily and something. So I thought it was so mundane, but it's so, I don't know, loaded within itself in a subject. So I think, there was a lot of intrigue in putting it in a work in terms of how much we can kind of sometimes pass by it and take it for granted, but actually what it's signifying and symbolizing sometimes to us as well. So I think there was a slight acknowledgement of that in high school, but I think like a classic whoopie pie to the face in comedy. I just thought it was kind of funny. Like I didn't think much of it. Yeah. So it was super unexpected for there to be then like this whole exploration, further dialogue from that. Like I didn't think anything else would come from it really. I was just duct taping paintings and putting weird food in it.
I'd love to see your board.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And so you sort of felt like you were successful at high school. You got good grades in the end.
Yeah, I did. The curriculum, I was really lucky, worked for me. I mean, I also had super supportive teachers that said like, hey, if this isn't working for you, or if you're not interested or worried about getting, say, whatever the higher marks, then like we're happy for you to like play as well. So I was given a lot of space, which is pretty awesome to be able to acknowledge that you don't have to so like in order to allow the creativity and play and space for that. So, but I was lucky that still my work definitely did fit within that system, and I could, do quite well at school. And
we were just talking earlier that you chose not to go to study visual arts. And I guess that some of your teachers were expecting that you might.
I think I've always been quite determined and outspoken on what I like, with the direction I want to go in. So I think they knew that I was going overseas, because that's what I did after high school for a good 14 months. And so, but I still always had, I was in discussion with them for sure about university or different like art schools, and it's still something I'm interested in. But at the time, I didn't think it was the right thing or the right moment for me. I knew that I still wanted to be practicing, always, and an artist, and giving to that, and that being central in my life, and holding the main space. But yes, I didn't see it as at that point the right thing to do. I think I had other things.
And what was it?
I mean,
it's amazing that leaving school and thinking that you wanted to be a full-time artist. I mean, that in itself is very brave.
Yeah.
But what was it that made you think that you weren't quite ready, or you didn't want to go to art school?
Well, I'd saved up for a while, and I really wanted to go overseas and see all these incredible works that I'd been studying for in art history and that. And I also wanted to learn, because I'd started learning French. So I had people in my family speaking French. So I wanted to kind of fluently do that. So I stayed in France for quite a good period. And so I had different kind of goals, I guess, initially with that. I was like, that's what I want, is to be traveling, seeing a lot, taking a lot in. And then, because I know university is not going to disappear. I mean, apart from the arts are on the edge in terms of funding and stuff at the moment. But yes, as institution, I didn't think it was going to run away in those 2 years. So I was like, can come back the following year and do that. And that's when I came back that next year though. And then I thought I've had a year of a lot of reflection and things I was interested in, and I really wanted space to explore that. And I had a lot of friends that had gone through, say, Elam, AUT, ILM, all the art schools, and I knew that first year was a lot of play, which is really wicked and what I definitely always, you always want. But at the same time, I didn't think it was going to support the type of play and questions I had in my head, or needed space to follow and give to and create work from. So, and then I thought as well, if I'm so determined to do my practice, I should be able to do this without going to an art school. I should be dedicated enough to find a space and commit to it and give to it and let it grow. And then I can always, when I'm ready and when I want that really critical environment and those with that incredible knowledge bank to come and rip my work apart and give to it, then I'll step into that space. And I still do want to, but just at that moment I was like, no, I need to explore first what's in my head.
Which is amazing. And what was in your head at that time?
I don't know, lots of questions and I don't know, just ideas of works that I wanted to do. So that was in a broad sense. Just
which is great that it's actually there.
Yeah, I guess
sometimes
true.
people don't have the ideas, so they don't know where to start. So was the work or your ideas at that point quite connected to the work you're doing now, do you think?
Yeah, I'd say so, because I think my work, how I work, is just like a really slow ball evolution, like one work shits out the next kind of thing.
I love that phrase.
No, so in terms of like what I'm reading and philosophical development, that then like mutates the work and it grows on itself, which is also then gets wacky when you're explaining the work, because you're like, whoa, I've got like 4 years worth of thoughts to condense and like I can show the threads. But so yes, there was definitely like the base foundations of what I'm exploring now that grew from that point. Yes.
And how were you approaching your practice at that point?
In terms of like the studio space, or
what your sort of expectations
routine
were of yourself and your work?
I think initially I was just like, I remember it being really daunting coming back, and then you're like, okay, and you go and get the canvas or bits that you think you want to use. Or I was painting on MDF a lot at that time because I was working a bit smaller, and I liked that surface. So I was like, okay, we just start building the work, and then and then I was like, okay, no, I want to work larger scale, and so I'm moving on to canvas. So it was just very slow. And then I had like, yes, for sure, ambitions. I was like, okay, so it'd be quite nice. Maybe I get to a point and I have enough body of work that I can put it together in a show and see what conversations are happening, so I had like small wee goals like that, which would be, to kind of like motivate you forward in terms of, but I don't know, I was kind of just quite happy being cooped up in a home and making it and just exploring it and reading. Like that's a big part of it as well, is definitely constantly like reading books and like different philosophers or philosophies, or I was obsessed with, not that I can tell you shit because it's so complicated, but like Heidegger's stuff on Dasein and being in time. So like reading stuff like that, and just, even though I can't necessarily regurgitate it to you or fully understand it, like it being enough of inspiration. So it was more just like a lot of, and I was very disciplined, I think, as well, and very motivated and lots of energy, which I still am. So it was kind of just like, let's give to it, let's do it, and who cares? Like that's what, I don't know.
So good. And were you working full time on your practice at that time?
No, I wish. I always want, like you wish I could, but do have to survive. So I've always had part-time work, whether that's like hospo or I don't know, like at the moment I do technician work as well in high school. And then, I don't know. So no, always had a part-time job, which was like at least 15 hours a week to support myself and save and then and pay rent and food and alleviate the practice.
Sadly.
Yeah, so I couldn't do it full-time as much as, gosh, would love to. But at the same time, I think for a bit, now I think I could do it, but I think for a bit I didn't want also the money to touch the practice as well, and in terms of then dictating direction as well. So I wanted to potentially be able to explore ugly conversations or things if I could. So
good on you. So that was like, was it sort of 5 years ago or?
Yeah, I guess so, like 2017, 18.
That's
maybe.
when you started your practice.
Yeah.
And that's when you first sort of thought of yourself as an artist, do you think?
I think so, yeah. I've always, yes. I think things that I always, when I say to someone, I always say practicing artist. I don't know why. I guess to soften something about it. I'm not sure. But yes, always, I did refer to myself as an artist. That was my principal thing and was strong with that in terms of like, so I'm like, no, this is what I'm doing today. I'm doing my artist stuff, so I can't meet up with you. And having boundaries to the practice is super important.
It is, and it's so hard sometimes for other people to understand. Like,
yes,
you're
very
free. You're
so.
just painting.
Oh,
in the
100%.
studio.
You're like, exactly. You're just around the corner, like moving a brush. It's like, no, that's not how it works. And no, I can only see you till 7 tonight or something. So yeah.
Oh, good on you for being so disciplined.
It's
amazing. And were you thinking you're going to have a life of being a practicing artist? That was your
that's what I like. I acknowledge I don't know, like, because like I can never be certain about the future or how things are going to change or where they could go. But at the moment, and in terms of then, yes, it's just like, no, that's what I am going to do and give to and make space to, no matter how difficult it is as well. And you're all butting up against things. So yes. Yeah.
Which is so amazing. And you're 25, aren't you?
24, turning 25 later in the year.
And that, it's quite amazing to have that kind of attitude when you haven't had, a lot of years of sort of being affirmed by people and all that sort of stuff. You've just got that self-confidence.
Yeah, I feel like you've got to, though, with the practice. I mean, if you're not standing up for it, who else is as well? So you already have to give, have defenses about it and be certain. Yeah.
It's a great attitude, but it's something that for a lot of artists, it takes a long time to get to that point. Oh, yeah,
I understand. And there's still 100% the self-doubt and imposter syndrome and uncertainty, but you're just like, no, this is still the path, and I'm accepting that. So even you can still go through that and all those waves, but be committed to the practice, still, yeah.
So good.
Going through it.
So tell us, maybe you could actually describe your current work to somebody who's never seen it before.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, I'll try. So I like to work principally at the moment in oil paint, and it's on a very large scale or size. So at most of the work is over 2.4 meters tall by 1.8 meters wide. I mean, that's changed from where it started, and I think it's probably going to change in the coming months, and you never know. But at the moment, that's it. And I really like, so all the work's really big. And then in terms of subject, it is there's a whole lot of contextual discussion off it, but subject is very fleshy, often referencing meaty, fleshy, visceral, but without specific personification or identity with an individual. And then also other, it's it borderlines, I think, representational object and then abstraction as well through its treatment or crop or compositional elements. So you can also have other mutant little things coming in like the breast or liquids and fluids or little creatures and natural referencing forms. But it's still always quite intense and hyperbolic in its color treatment and then very large scale. So they swallow you. So there's usually, I like my practice, it's immersive as well, is how I see it, that it's installed and really interacting with viewer and conscious of space, but it's painting. So yes, sorry, that was a very convoluted and not
brilliant.
concise way.
You are so good at speaking about your work. You're amazing. And so it is fundamentally meat.
Yes, the work from last year, I would say definitely. Well, yeah, previous work, 100%. I think the work that's going on in studio at the moment is moving away from that. That's quite difficult to talk to because you're in the process and you don't 100% know what it's yet saying or the whys. So I can't really, I think, speak to that yet. But in terms of the work last year and prior to that was definitely, yes, referencing quite specifically meat, which started in almost like nature morte, still life, objective sense, and then posed against other representational kind of objects or spaces or chairs or metals, exploring and deconstructing value systems and relationships. And then last year was specifically taking the meat because it's so loaded in itself. I was like, you have to get rid of all the other shit to understand it. You can't. So it felt like I jumped the gun or something. So I was like, you got to strip it back. And that's when, even though I think, it's interesting because yes, I am taking from there. So the works large scale are these big blown up, abstracted, meaty, fleshy things. But I know for some people who approach it, they really don't see that, which shocks me. There's at least 50% of people who will come in and pull out natural patterns or be like, it's a crystal or I don't know.
Oh, really?
Something super random, which I would not think of, or some kind of scary cathedral-like thing. And they don't realize the reference of meat, which I think because once you see it or you know it, then, you're quite set on it. But actually there's a lot of people who don't when they see it in person because it's different seeing it on a screen when it's reduced. And that's when the work's so large scale. So in space, I think for some people it's still super abstract. But otherwise, yes, yeah, it is like meat.
And sometimes some of your works have, like a piece of meat sort of contained in the canvas.
Yes.
And other times it's kind
like
of heading off the canvas.
And it's only taking the reference of the ideology attached to meat by having that deconstructed little bit of it, or fragmentation. I think fragmentation's a big thing in my work. So a fragment of meat in order to have those whole attached ideas there, but not that be the center of the conversation as well always. So so that it definitely goes between the two, and it just depends on what I'm thinking about, or sensationally wanting one to feel from the work, because that is often what drives the work too, is like sense and how I want someone to feel. It's quite sensory. So yeah.
And how are you wanting people to respond?
Oh my God, it depends. I don't really care how you respond.
As long as you respond.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're not indifferent and walking past it, then it's chill. So you can take whatever you want from it. Like, I really don't mind. I mean, I hope my wish is that people spend enough time with it to see the nuance within the work, because I think it's possible, it could be quite easy to take it from surface value objective of what it is, when I think there's deeper conversations about like empathy and things that we wouldn't assume and connotate with things such as meat, or something that's so abject. So I mean, those are points where I would like people to get to, but I don't really, ultimately, I don't mind. You take what you want from it. Like, if you're just loving the color, and getting a hit from that, I'm like, that's cool.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And I guess you must, if you're ever sort of able to observe people interacting with your work, there must be so many, the spectrum of reaction. Would be huge.
Totally. Oh, 100%. But that's why I love it. And that's why I like to make as well, is to make people question and have have this whole variety of space for exchange. And so there is people who walk in and then they're immediately thrown by it and they walk out of the space. Like, I have had that of people being, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I can't have this conversation, which is really interesting. And they've left it. So they've been, even though abject's not a verb, but I guess, they've been thrown from the space. And then there's others who are so fascinated by it. And then, because there's also the work, there's a strange also sexual side to it. So there's a whole, and then there's, I don't know. And then there's also a psychoanalytical thing where people after my kids come in and they're like, that's like a face and he's holding up an ice cream. And I'm like, sure. Or there's the teeth. So it's quite cool in that respect too. There's a lot of, a lot of
people see different
ways.
Things.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is quite fascinating.
Yeah. Which
so
is
what's
fun.
What's the sexual connection?
Oh my gosh. I don't actually consciously really want it to be sexual necessarily, but I think there's definitely almost strange, I guess there's discussions of fetishization and objectification, definitely. So it's intriguing when people come in and pick up on that, or how different audiences react to, especially when you've got meat, boob and milk together. So there is, and some of it's also, I'd say it's more sensual than sexual, but there's people definitely have conversations about that, and there's space for it, and I want there to be, and I think that's super important. And that also makes sense, because meat in itself being something that's borderline life within death and abject, that, I don't know, it spawns the whole discussion of things that are tabooed, which is sex and menstruation and blood and whatever. So that inevitably is going to have a space, and it does, because people do talk to it, but I'm not consciously driven to
that's really interesting,
put that discussion there kind of.
But it's so good that it can be there, and you're happy with that.
It's
just another reaction. But also, I guess the the whole body part thing, and you can have sort of either paint in something like an orifice, and then people can see that, how they want to see it, or it's not even an orifice intentionally, but it reminds people of something.
Oh, totally. And they're like, that's people there, I don't like this, it's a vagina. I'm like, oh, okay, what have you got against vaginas?
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. Yeah.
So your work sort of has an abstract feel, but it also has a surrealist feel in some ways.
I love
And then it
surrealism.
also has that sort of, it is quite representational
Yes,
as well.
yeah.
So how
Lots
does
of
that work?
borderlines, which I really like, and I don't want to, because I think in terms of like my initial intrigue into looking into abjection and Julia Kristeva's writings and stuff, like abjection in itself deals with borderline, like something that isn't a borderline condition, and so I wanted that to almost, that was quite an intentional technical and compositional direction and I guess manipulation of my work, is that I didn't want it to be necessarily easily categorized and allow my self to play between spaces. So then it can fall super abstract where it's almost like Mondrian color blocking and geometric construction, which there is to the base of the work, but there also is the surrealist side where I really let go of the recognizable object and can just play with whatever's coming from my head, which I think is what's happening a lot in my current studio practice, a lot more of the surreal kind of play, which is nice. And then there's the representational and objective, because I also really value that, because the work's so grounded in our physicality and looking at our physical presence within the world. And I think that's really, so it's really interesting, I think, to take our objective reality around us and reposition that and make people question, and so then assumed things of subjects are put into question and made uncertain. So I like that I hope, and I want it to, and want to continue pushing that, so that it falls into a space where it's between many things and it's not, not within strict category, but it can talk to many things if it wants to.
Which is so great.
A playful space. Yeah.
And how do you actually communicate with your audience or with your viewers to sort of help them to understand what you're thinking, or do you like to just leave it to them to figure out?
I mean, ultimately, 100% just leave it to the viewer to take what they want from it, because there's only so much you can do with your intent as an artist and then step away. And yes, you can have writing accompanying it and that, but I want you to just essentially get what you want from the work, and I don't mind what that is. But it is also gosh, that's such a tension in your, for me in my practice and making, when you're reading and you're writing, because I really like to write, and that's where a lot of my reflection comes from and what drives the work. But that's really hard when the medium of that is so constrained within words, and then you're trying to visually represent something. I mean, you have to let go of the idea that is grounded in all that kind of thought in order to just intuitively and hopefully intuitively come through visually, because there's only so much you can do to represent, to try convey, I think, an idea as well, or in terms of what I'm interested in. So there's always a tension between, I guess, spaces, thought for me, and what drives me, which is a lot of words, and then that visual output. But I do do watercolors and a lot of charcoal works, which is what then drives the works as well. I will do that and then blow it big, and then you can start bringing in some of those thought and more structured contextual discussions and seeing how that sits alongside, and that can drive the work. But yeah, there's only so much you can do really once you start, because you got to let go of the words. Words are so hard unless it sits within poetry, I think, or something. But otherwise,
and what are you actually writing about, and what are you researching?
Random, anything, anything. Oh my gosh, you could just go it could be from you've gone around, you've seen how someone's interacting and sitting with someone else, or your thoughts that are just in your head in terms of I don't know, space, or something super abstract, or it just anything and everything, and just getting that down, because I think that's so important to clarify the mind space, and then allow the works to come from that. And then reading, always read, when I read, I write a lot alongside it, so then, and then I'll go back and probably read the book again, and then I'll read my notes and then write my own thoughts off of that. So it's just, I don't know, lots of random
and then how does that translate to a painting of meat, if you want to simplify it?
I mean, oh gosh. I think that's when more of that emotive, sensational drive comes in, is that you read that work and you're okay, I think there's something that could be grounded within composition, or a color, or or for something so strictly like subject, like meat, and objection, that's just like so entwined. So like, that's quite literal. I don't know. It just really depends. Or at the moment, like with one of my works, it was sitting at the beach, and it's just, like with our classic super harsh UV rays, it feels like it's pricking your skin and is super like, so that the feeling is intense and it is contrast, and then like the light is contrast because it's so stark with like, it was on this like white sand beach, and then your hair's all wet and there's that stick and there's that ick. And so I wanted that to come through in the painting as well. So then that was a bit of like color and form, I'd say, in this work I'd recently done. So just depends.
It's really fascinating.
It can be anything. It's like, and it allows then like, fun and space, but there's still like alongside that's why it's quite complex, and because there's like still those discussions and social concerns that I want there, and I think is super important, and which is the thread throughout the whole work. And then I can allow that other almost personal, more psychoanalytical shit to fall on top and with it. So
I can totally see what you're saying. So what are your actual social concerns? What are you trying to say?
There's many. I mean, they don't have to be also so forefront in the work. It's more a space for me to be like in a cathartic sense, to be able to be like, okay, yes, I acknowledge this is what I was thinking about. The viewer might not receive that, but like definitely, I mean, I don't think people would assume it, but like ecological concerns and climate change, and I think also providing a like different values, like psychological approach to engaging with others, so othering and empathy, which is through something which is like, my work can be quite intense with people, so they wouldn't assume it's about that, but it's actually wanting you to let go of the self within the work and ego in order to sit with other, and so then actually enter back into the world from an empathetic space. So then that hopefully being a slightly like social value uphaul of like economic value systems and shit. But there's a lot of things they think about and that are there, but people wouldn't know from surface. But so it's a space where I think about that kind of stuff.
And is it, are you commenting on life and death in some way?
It's always there. I think that's so important. I think I've had people who said they think I'm quite pessimistic because of it. And it is kind of asking a specific outlook, but I think the reminder of death is and that inevitability. I mean, it's something that, gosh, I still really try to sit with and think about, and it's hard, but that's why I think it's so important. And it's another one where you unify together, because it's like that inevitability, so again, there's a letting go of self within death, and then wanting to live and being motivated, I mean, it can go, depends its outlook, but I think it's, I think the reminder of it, like in classical 17th century, like Vanitas, that it is important to have that reminder in order to like reflect and intentionally engage with the world. Like it's reflecting on engagement in space is my main thing, is wanting to, even though it seems odd, it's actually wanting to empower you through a deconstruction of self. So which seems very like loose, I don't know,
no,
but that is that. Where where it comes from, which people wouldn't assume, but I like that it's done through something mundane, potentially mundane as well. But there's lots of discussions, and especially because then you also you start, I think, valuing life more and looking at how life is valued and body is valued and animal is valued, and that we are animal and our denial of that. And so, so it's a, I don't know.
Yes, that's complex.
Where that's where I come from, though. That's some of the little rivers that lead into the final lake.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's amazing at your age, at 24, that you have such a sort of really good grasp of what you're thinking and where you're heading and what you're trying to say, and through your work, which is amazing. And, just to think that you've managed to figure all of this out, you do talk about your work really very well. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I've figured anything out, as is anyone, but I do like to really write and reflect and ask always the whys, because I think, it's ultimately the same thing where you've got to stand up for your work and defend it. So I think you constantly have to be questioning it. And so that's where I think that I can talk to it quite easily. That's where that comes from, because that's for me an important part of my practice, and in terms of decision making and and pushing the work forward. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's constantly changing though. I'm sure I'll listen back to this in 10 years and be like, my God.
No, but it's all part of the journey, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and whatever you're doing now is informing what you do later.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It's
I can't wait to
exciting.
see what you're working on.
Same.
Yeah.
Nerve-wracking. What's going to come?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's great. And so that's a really amazing overview of your practice. But can you tell us about your process and maybe think of one artwork that you've created?
Yeah.
And how do you go about, I mean, we know that you do a lot of reading and writing.
Yeah.
But how do you actually approach the canvas?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I got to pick a work in my head. Let's I'm gonna pick the work Campylobacter, which is in my show I had done at Scott Lowry Gallery last year called Honey, You're Caving In. It's this big piece where there's it's quite blue. It's a quite cool toned piece with meat on the left side, suggestive meatiness on the left side of the canvas, a bit alienish, and a breast on the right side of the canvas, or suggestive again, and then fluid all throughout it. And approaching that work, I knew I wanted to really simply have a conversation between those three elements. It was breast, fluid, milk. And so super, super simple. And so then I did kind of, in my head, my works are really geometrically constructed. So I might do a few drawings of how I want, really rough sketches of how I want it to be feeling in terms of geometric construction on a piece of paper. And then for that piece, I got my camera and I filmed myself. Actually, no, I think that one, my poor partner filmed me rolling around on my bathroom floor with meat and milk going all over me, really trying to just physically understand and embody what I'm trying to discuss in my work. And so then from that, I took a lot of snapshots, I guess, of this video piece. I wouldn't call it piece, but yeah, this video. And then I would kind of collage from those reference images, this work I wanted. So that maps out the base of often it's like that. So, and then I decide what size I want to be working at, which again, that one was, 2.3, I think. I think that one was 2.3 by 1.8. And so then from that, I guess I kind of collage from my reference sketch and those images, the base map, what I call my base map for my work. So there is a lot of reference, I guess. So then I'm building that up, and then I let go of reference for all the layers that are to come, which is really nice. And that's when it gets surreal and distorted and there's no reference. And that's so freeing as well. So that's where the bridge of some of that kind of context and drive comes in, and then the actual painting process. So, and then I feel like for me, it's like carving. I feel like that's how I really approach it. It's like carving out the canvas with paint, even though you're adding, not removing. Yeah. So then it just builds up from there.
And do you start with pencil on your canvas?
I have, again, it'll be rough lines. I'm okay, I want this bit to end there. I want something to happen there. And so it's super loose. It's super loose, abstract, and it's not, there's nothing tight about it in terms of guiding. And then you can,
And then how do you approach your actual painting?
Oh my. Oh my. Gosh, it changes again from work to work, I think. So with the paint, I think color is a big part of my work. And so again, that's what it will be the pigments, that initial layer is super important for me in determining a degree of the sensory direction of the work. So then it's pigment driven, and then quite a fat layer of paint, and then it's just free flow, loose layers where I can have fun considering light and I don't know, just the technical elements, I guess, of the actual application. But yeah, it's a hard one as well to, I think, put into words. Again, one of those things where you're trying to put this visual and this kind of movement into.
And you have, and you're just talking about how colour is important. And when you look at your works together, there's definitely sort of a connection across the colour, a certain colour palette. Yeah. But do you have sort of preferred colours for your underpainting?
No.
So could you have a whole range of different colours?
Yeah, I could do, if I wanted to. But I feel like, I mean, underpainting, it just depends on the piece as well. I don't really mind. I think at the moment, in terms of my practice and in studio, what's happening and a lot of change, I'm experimenting with that a lot more and having a lot of fun with that, where it used to be, I think, restricted to, I don't, in terms of colours, I work with a real restricted pigment selection. So it's quite like your classic, like just, like 7 or 8 colours actually that make my work, which is, instead of getting that whole range. So I'm like, one day I will, because that's so much to deal with. There's so much in a painting to deal with in terms of like if you suddenly had all those pre-mixed tubes. So that's why I think I work from very few colours actually. So, but in the works at the moment, say like I'm obsessed with, and I'm thinking about yellow a lot, whereas I was not at all considering or thinking about yellow last year. I don't know, just
that's part of your evolution, I guess.
I guess.
And what are your colours that you were using last year?
More of just going straight with your like classic red sienna, building from there. I guess.
That's a very cool colour palette. And then it's amazing how you manage to get, you work with light in such a clever way. And the way you get that sort of gloss happening.
Yum.
Oh, so yummy. And then the movement with the fluid and, it's really clever.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, you never know how it's going to synthesize, and you hope it gets to that point where it's breathing more than just like objectively what makes it up,
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely is. So with your large pieces, it's hard to imagine your workspace. So can you tell us about your studio and how you have set it up to sort of manage these large pieces?
So I am currently borrowing a lovely friend's studio, which is I'm in a wee artist run space, and there's about 7 or 8 of us. So I am borrowing the space upstairs, which can fit 3 canvases on the wall and has a lovely window, which is nice because then suddenly I'm really externally conscious of the outside world, because I have been working in a few years in a storage cupboard. So people assume, because the work's really big, that I was working I've got a space for it, but I was actually working literally in a 2.5 by 2.5 by 2.5 little cube, and which I think explains a lot about the work in terms of how it comes out in its direction, because it is immersive, because I was painting like in the works really. So I did that for a few years, and that dictated a lot. I think space is so important in dictating work, not even like there's so many parts to it in terms of like light and whatever, but just also psychological space. So that was really interesting, because I think I come from something that was very introspective, and I think that's when it was grounded a lot when in my philosophizing and just pondering about being, and then went into this space which has suddenly got these windows and external world, and you're like, oh yes, I should contextualize it actually more in terms of how we engage with it on a that day-to-day basis from this space. So that's really changed the work also in terms of the color palette, and I think free like having a little bit more space has then freed me to play a bit more, not in terms of pushing scale, but I don't know what it was about that small space, but I was like, gotta feel like hugged in by it, and which I think it makes a lot of sense.
And looking back on your work later, you'll probably see the influence of those different spaces.
Completely. I think so. Definitely.
Which is really interesting.
There already is a switch where even though people, I think for me, I could definitely see difference.
And how do you find working alongside other people nearby?
Really great. That's fine. I don't it's great having people come in when I want a bit of critical response, or someone to be like pass an eye over it, because you can get so absorbed in your work and you don't want to, you need to stop sometimes, or you just need another voice to say something or then springboard you somewhere. So I'm really lucky to have that, because I think that's really important. And then have people passing through the space all the time is quite nice. But otherwise I'm pretty good at just shutting myself away and being okay working like that.
And so good to have a separate space that you can go to.
Yes. Yeah. I think for me, exactly. Oh, so important, because initially when, 5 years ago when I started, I was working at home, but I didn't realize, well, specifically for me, how that wasn't healthy, because I was super bad otherwise at stopping. So I would just happily paint till 1 a.m. and be like, oh no, I've got work actually I really need to get up for, so I need to go to bed. And then psychologically not being separated from that space, knowing it's just there to crawl away. So for me, I know for me personally, it's really important to have it as a separate space I travel to, and it reminds me of the necessity of that balance you need to feed the practice ultimately as well. So so for me it's crucial being separate.
And let's just talk a little bit about the commercial side of your practice.
Yeah.
So, for a lot of artists, marketing and selling can be problematic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have a website.
Yeah.
How do you sell and obviously you're with, you have been with Scott Laurie Gallery, which is a dealer gallery in Auckland.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's first of all talk about the dealer gallery. Yeah. So how did you become part of that gallery? And how did you sort of have the confidence to go there, and why did you want to go there in the beginning?
So initially I was did a few projects or shows with Scott last year, and it was a friend who had introduced me to him, or he had popped into the studios, and then this friend was like, hey, there's this chick working in a cupboard and you might like the work. So Scott had popped in, and at the time I was building up work I wanted to do work in just like a abandoned space, like a big installation in an abandoned space. And he was like, oh, this is really what I want to do with some of my other female artists, and the conversations were really similar, or there was crossovers of conversations. So that's why I was quite interested in terms of the stable of artists. I thought there was a few conversations happening. And so then I guess we, did form a relationship and do a few lovely things together. So it was nice doing Silo, the Silo show together was really great. And that's kind of made me reflect a lot in terms of the direction and engaging with gallery spaces and commercial spaces, because I realized it's a difficult one, I found, because when you step into that space, because it's commercial, you need to really know what your practice is about and have boundaries as to how and where you want to engage, and make sure that it is respected, and that that relationship supports that and supports the play, because otherwise it can be quite, it's quite something if it's monetarily driven, which I definitely struggle with. But no, Scott was really good with that. So it was fun doing this big solo show together, because I'd never seen my work communing together in that space. And then in a space like big white walled classic gallery space, and then doing this silo show was okay, this is actually, I think, where my work sits and wants to sit and wants to go and wants to play. So then it's having those conversations as well about and acknowledging the future of my work, which is hard, because that's why I still, I think, have my part-time job, so that I can still kind of work out where the work wants to go. Because I do, yes, sell the odd piece, but I am interested in it being large-scale, immersive, and which doesn't consider money in a lot of it. So, which is really tricky, of course, because you want to be giving as much as you can to your practice, but surviving. Yeah. So I do I do sell some of my smaller kind of preparatory works that are charcoal and that. So that is, I don't know, that financially alleviating a bit. And then in terms of the direction of my work at the moment, I acknowledge that still I will, have a part-time job, so that whatever space I engage in, it doesn't it's great if the work sells, but at the moment I acknowledge that maybe that's not what's going to happen because I want to do these like more installation kind of works, even though it's painting, which I think is interesting because that's like often like they go to an assumed commercial like selling thing is painting, but then it's not. Yeah, I'm not interested in it in that certain context. So I don't know. There's just it's lots of reflection and stuff.
I mean, do you ever sell your very large works? To
yes.
So what's your audience?
I have, but I guess at the moment it's more like you've got to have quite a big space to be able to take that in, or like kind of private collection stuff. Yes, and I wish there's a side. Of course, like that's what you wish it was more accessible in terms of anyone being able to have, like, like if they wanted to have the work, but at the same time I'm like, okay, no, that's not what I want people want to like. I don't want people to get that from the work. So I want what you get is your pure experience and not having it to be take home. And then if you happen to be able to afford and have space to take that home, okay, that's okay. That's cool. And that's nice that I can sell a big work. But so yes, at the moment it is quite limited in terms of
that's not your main goal when you're making work.
Not my main goal at the moment, which can change and can go up and down, and I might get to a point where I'm like, I really need some like money or something, because then I don't know, not at the moment.
Which is brave once again of you to kind of go there and be really true to yourself and your own practice.
Drips of sweat down the brow. But at the moment, I'm like, this is what I want for my practice, and this is the boundaries, and so I'm going to engage in places and spaces on that kind of
And you're interested sort of potentially in the future and sort of more project space kind of?
I guess so, yes, just seeing how the work evolves and what comes out of studio probably in the next year or two, and then being intentional with, okay, so what does it want, and then deciding.
And you've got a website. Is that a place that you would sell work, do you think, or it's a visual
it's
gallery?
more just very poor visual reference, which I need to update, and I'm super hopeless with. But people can reach out, and people have reached out through that. So that is totally a way. I don't put all the work up there, and maybe I think I'm going to get a bit better with that. That's one of my things over the next year.
And Instagram,
I need to do more on that. Again, I'm super hopeless at that, but I would like to, just so that's a way people can engage and interact with me a bit more if they want to, and reach out to me. And yes, I am very bad. It's once in a blue moon that I change it or put something up, but I'm trying to give to that a little bit more.
That's good. You're not the only one. I think so many artists are in the same boat. It's very normal. Do you ever sell prints of your work, or is it all originals?
No, all originals, I mean, again, maybe one day there will come a point where I'm like, this is cool and I'm happy for this to sit within a print, but because that's not why I make and what the experience I want for people to have of my work, like I want them to be physically raptured in space with these paintings and being with them. I haven't put them into print form or anything yet, but maybe one day. But no, at the moment, they do. They just stick in their original.
I can see that.
I
can see why, your reasoning behind that. All right, Rebecca, we are at the quick fire. Well, not really quick fire, but
quick fire.
Long
I'm
fire
ready.
questions. So, can you tell us which New Zealand artists are your favourite, and have they influenced your work at all?
Oh my, there's so many. There is so many. I would say I have a big heart and space for I actually don't even know if I'm going to say her name right, but Frances Upritchard.
Or is it you Pritchard?
You Pritchard. Oh my God.
Sure.
See, every time I say it wrong, and I know I'm saying it wrong.
I know
you Pritchard, but yes, her work is, oh my God, freaky cool, and that definitely like inspires me a lot. And yes, I think her, and then probably I also really admire the work of Zach Langdon-Poe and his kind of communication, and like his recent show at Michael Lett, I thought was really brilliant, and how that was very thought-provoking for me, and has kind of found like fragmentation organized again, kind of found object thing, like in a different medium. I I really like and resonate with some of his work. But oh my gosh, there's actually so many. And then I think there's other ones that fall outside New Zealand that I'm always conscious of, like Helen Chadwick as well, and her like the Oval Court, which I think is such a inspiring and recent discovery for me, or like the narrative narrative direction of like Paula Rego as well. So that's kind of going out in New Zealand, but I think those are two that I find are really inspiring. But yeah, that's four kind of ones I'm conscious of. But there's many, and
there's always so many,
and you never know fully how exactly they're influencing it, But yes, yeah.
As an artist, what do you think is your biggest challenge?
Whoa. Oh my gosh, biggest challenge. It's such a privilege and so great to be an artist, but there is definitely things that are challenging. I think like constantly turning yourself inside out and asking the whys and being what seems like sometimes you're like constantly vulnerable and then potentially like physically engaging and exposing that to other people, and so you do have to have your skin, I guess, with that. But just like constantly those whys can suddenly sometimes psychologically be like quite a lot, and I'm quite an overthinker too. And then also navigating spaces, like understanding as best you can your practice, and then navigating space and having boundaries where need be and communicating that. So I think those are kind of two big things I think that are challenging, have challenged me, I guess. I don't know, yes.
Yeah. And what would you say to your younger artist self?
I still feel like pretty young and early in the journey. So what would I say to myself would be just, I don't know, not be afraid at all to play. And it would be to once again know your practice as best as possible. So you put up those boundaries and are can be as intentional as you can with where and how and who you engage with, I guess. But yeah, yes, no, just be excited and give yourself, and I don't know, just have those days you passed over the imposter syndrome and things like that. Just keep going at it, really.
Yeah.
Keep giving.
And finally, why do you make the kind of work you make?
Oh my gosh, why?
The big question.
The whys. So many whys. I think one, because it brings me a lot of joy and it's a way for me to make sense, and I think like engage with the world best and look after myself, and then also and allow myself to question, and then hopefully provide a space for others to find value and question as well. I think that's the main thing. Yeah. Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end, Rebecca. It's been a complete joy meeting you.
Oh, no. Thank you so much. It's been lovely meeting you and you having me here at your home. It's so gorgeous.
Thank you. It's just so nice to have your sort of amazing energy and hear your incredible ideas behind your practice. And, after having a break of a couple of months, it's just like...
Yeah. And the whirlwind that it's been here.
Yes.
Tãmaki Makaurau. It's not,
And it's so lovely for you to be my first, back on the horse.
Oh no, yeah. But thank you so much for being so welcoming, and it's been very fun for me and great to have the space to reflect with you. It's really good.
It's so good. Thank you so much.
Thanks.